going on, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. So we're wrapping up the Killin It Resurrection series because, as y'all can probably see, and probably already know if you follow me on any of the social media platforms, old Killin It is already resurrected. I just got in a little bit of a time crunch while we were finishing her up, so I didn't have time to do all these videos, but rest assured I'm not going to jip you on content. I'm still going to do all the videos I planned on doing from the get-go. So in this episode, we're going to start going through my new power steering setup. It is motherfucking sick, I got to tell you. And I got first-hand experience because I've been able to take the truck to a couple events with that new power steering setup, and it was definitely worth its weight in gold. Thing is super motherfucking bitching. But to start off this video, I want to go through and kind of explain the way the steering setup was before we did all these new upgrades to it. So let's go on over to the truck, and I'll actually take a look at the rear steer setup because it's still kind of set up the way the front steer used to be. So nothing too dissimilar from the way most mega trucks are these days. It's just got a couple little upgrades here and there. So we've got dual steering rams. Got a single straight tie bar. Got 6AN lines that come off the steering rams. They go up to one of our super bitchin' manifolds. Thank you, R&D Concepts, Mr. Frickin' Brian Robinson, the mad motherfucking scientist, always keeping us dialed in. Still a little dirty from the last mud park we were at. But anyways, goes up to 6AN lines, goes up our 4 links, up into the truck, and yeah, up into the power steering setup. So that is basically how she was ran up into the engine bay. Once it got to the engine bay, it went to my orbital valve, and we were using the factory power steering pump to move all the fluid. Well, we turned it up a little bit. It is motherfucking sick, I gotta tell y'all. It's real bitchin'. Now, the first step of this whole upgrade process was to remove the factory power steering pump. Well, it actually wasn't even the truck because we already had the old motor out. The old power steering pump was still on the old motor. This new engine didn't have a power steering pump on it yet, so that wasn't a problem, but I did have to remove my old hydro booster and install the new one. Now, I know you're probably wondering, why am I taking the hydro booster out? I thought you were swapping out the power steering pump. Well, the hydro booster is part of the whole apparatus, part of the whole freaking system that we got going on up here in the Killin It Mega Truck. Let me explain a little bit further real quick. For those of y'all that don't know, the way this whole thing freaking is set up, you got your steering wheel. Let's see if we can see up in here. It's a little bit dirty, but see that linkage right there? That comes off of my steering wheel. So when I turn the steering wheel, it turns that orbital valve. The orbital valve is this deal right up in here. Now the orbital valve has got all these hydraulic lines hooked to it, and basically it does exactly like it sounds. It's a valve, and it allows fluid to go one direction down to one of these cylinders, or the other direction to the other cylinder. So it'll kind of shove it in one if you want to push it out this way, or it'll shove it in the other if you want to push it out this way. And it also is doing the opposite. So if I'm pushing this one out, it's sucking this one in. If I'm pushing this one out, then it's, you feel me? You know what I'm saying? So the orbital valve is moving fluid from one side to the other, but it's getting all the pressure from the power steering pump, and that power steering pump is also helping the brake booster. Now, where does the hydro booster come in? Well, if you don't know anything about it, I'll give you a quick little rundown, learn you something real quick. Hydro booster is basically what gives you some little go juice to your freaking brake pedal. Now that gets pressure off of the power steering pump. So the whole reason why I got to swap out the hydro booster is because now I'm moving all this more fluid. I got to have the hydro booster be able to have bigger orifices in it so that it can move all that fluid. If it gets all bound up in the hydro booster, well, then it's just going to be kind of fighting against itself. So even though I had a much more super bitchin' power steering pump, it'd get all bound up in that hydro booster because the orifices in that hydro booster are smaller. So I'm going to swap out the hydro booster so it's got bigger holes in it so the fluid will pass through it. I'll still be able to get a little pressure on my freaking brake pedal. So if I get a little too intense on the go pedal, I can get on the brake pedal and be able to stop the Killin It Mega Truck, all while still working with my super banging new high flow power steering pump. You with me? So as I was saying, the first step of this whole process is going to be removing that old hydro booster. But before I even get into that, I've got that time lapse set up and everything from back when I did it. Before I even get into all that, I did want to explain to y'all why in the hell was I even doing this? What was wrong with it? The truck was turning. Y'all see me getting them wheels a turning. Why did I have to do this? Well, didn't have to do it at all. The reason why I did it, it was highly recommended by the mad scientist, our boy with the freaking adrenaline mega truck. He actually had the power steering pump setup that I ended up moving to with the Killin It Mega Truck. Now, why did I need to do this? Basically because it was such a pain in the ball bag when I was on the truck tug pad. It was particularly at the truck tugs too. It wasn't really so much when I was mud bogging. When I was mud bogging, I could, for the most part, I could move the wheels any way I needed to. If I was really getting froggy and I was really getting after it, sometimes I couldn't get the wheels to turn one way or the other as fast as I really would have liked them to. I would get to where the steering would just kind of bind up. It was really, really evident in the truck tug of wars. When I was doing the truck tug of wars, any of y'all that see me do the truck tugs, I kind of like doing this thing when I got all 4 wheels spinning, where you turn the wheel from side to side, where you kind of get the truck to kind of sway. and it's really cool. It only happens when you got the truck in 4-wheel drive when you're doing a burnout like that. I've tried doing it when I was just in 2-wheel drive when I had a broken front axle, and it didn't do it. You turn the wheels all you want, and you just don't really do anything. But when you got all 4 wheels turning, when you turn the wheel to the left, the whole truck kind of goes to the left. You go and you turn the wheels to the right, the whole truck kind of gravitates to the right. And it's really cool because once you really got some good wheel speed going, you start doing that and you get a little faster with it, the truck will start to just, it's pretty freaking sweet looking. So that honestly was the main reason why I did it. In order to get the truck really moving, I mean, I would be yanking on that freaking steering wheel in a truck tug of war. I'd be pulling so hard on that thing, I felt like I was gonna rip the steering wheel right off the column. I mean, pulling hard, because if you're going slow, then yeah, you could just kind of work the wheel to the one side and yeah, it would kind of go over. You could work the wheel to the other side and it would kind of go over. But if you're pulling, trying to get it to go really fast, it would be like, it was not fun at all. So that's why we upgraded to this super banging new power steering system. I ordered it online from Busted Knuckle Offroad. They specialize mainly in the rock bouncer stuff. That's pretty much what all their products are for. But a lot of that stuff, a lot of those worlds kind of intermingle with the mega truck world. And oddly enough, bam, that power steering pump seemed to work just fine for my truck. So what they do is they take a factory GMC power steering pump. I lucked out that it was GMC too. They use a factory GMC power steering pump and they go through and bore it all out so that it can pass more fluid through it. So you're not as restrictive as a factory power steering pump that you would generally get on one of these GMC trucks. So it's basically a drop-in system. All of the components are just about the same as the ones that came off this truck originally. They're just bored out so they can pass more fluid. And they got a couple little upgrades I'm gonna show you all along the way too that they do. But we're gonna get right to it though. The first step of this upgrade process is removing the old hydro booster. So that's gonna be the first time lapse. So let's go ahead and get to it, y'all. Oh, and before we even do that, make sure you hit the like button at the bottom of the screen, hit the subscribe button down there in my channel name. That way you get notified when I upload any other videos, and y'all can follow along as we start putting old girl to the test now. We got her super mother freaking ripping. If y'all are new to the channel, thank you very much for the view, and definitely hit that subscribe button. It's important. Y'all want to be a part of the party too, part of the Killin' Party? Well, that's how you do it. Bam, you hit that freaking subscribe button. That way you'll be notified when I put these videos up when we're taking old girl over to truck shows, truck tug of wars, mud bogs. We go to bikini contests frequently, go do a lot of boat stuff, all kinds of neat stuff that's always coming on the channel. So make sure you subscribe to the channel so you can be part of the action yourselves. And one more final note for some of our newer subscribers that have never watched any of our videos. If you don't know what the Killin' It Resurrection is, well, this whole series is where I blew up the engine in this truck back about 1.5 years ago.
Killing it, bro.
I killed it. It's killed. And we went through and basically rebuilt just about everything. Other than the subframe and a little bit of the interior, most of the truck has been redone. It's freaking sick. Y'all gotta go through and watch all those videos if you want all the details, but we rebuilt the axles. We freaking put a whole new, brand new SoCal diesel, twin mother freaking turbo, compound turbo, freaking 1,000 horsepower SoCal diesel Duramax in this thing. Twin turbskis, those turbskis on that thing. Put a new nitrous system in it, put a whole new cooling system in it. Now the power steering pump that we're about to start talking about now. We put a full roll cage in this thing. That's probably gonna be one of the next videos where I go through and explain all that and do the time lapse on that. So lots of really neat stuff. So like I said, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Let's go ahead and get to this first time lapse and start going through this new power steering pump. New hydro booster. Here's the old one. And this is going to make it to where we can turn the steering wheel with a finger, hopefully. So
why don't you tell your loyal fans why you're doing that, not just that it's a cool shiny part?
I just did, so that I could turn the freaking steering wheel with a finger.
No, like why you're changing it over.
Why am I changing it over, Brian?
Because it's bored out.
Explain. They're listening. They're listening. Go ahead.
No.
Tell us. I'm putting all this in the video too. Oh yeah, 100%. So they take a factory GM, what he's trying to say is they take a factory GMC hydro booster and bore it out to where it'll get a lot more fluid flowing through it, which will allow us to be able to turn the wheels much faster.
Correct. More flow, more power.
Exactly. So now I got to take this nut off, take this nut off, swap this plate over to here, and back in the truck she goes. All right, so we got the plate swapped over. And then what's this stick called, Josh? Do you know? Brake pedal rod. It's crimped in there. They crimped it around the sleeve like a bunch of dicks from GMC. This has got like a little ball in there. Kind of hard to see it, but it sits right in there. So now I gotta take a thin wheel each side of this so we can split this cup open a little bit and then slide that brake pedal rod inside there. All right, so we got the brake stick in there. Recrimped it, or like just hit it with a punch a couple times so that it won't fall out. And back in the hole she goes, right over yonder. All right, y'all, so now we just cruised over to the Mad Scientist work laboratory over at R&D Concepts because we got to do a little alteration to make our power steering pump work. So this is the nipple that came with the pump that I got from Busted Knuckle Offroad. That goes right in the back of the pump, and then this line goes up to the hydro booster. The problem is with where this mounts in the truck, I think I got a picture of it. Yeah, with where that's at, there's no way in hell I can get a line on there. It's too tight. It's right up next to the exhaust manifold. So we've got to do a little bit of modifying. What we're going to do is probably thin wheel this whole nipple right off, like right about there. And then I've got this right angle fitting that I just got from our buddies over at SW Hydraulics, Southwest Hydraulics over here in Venice, Florida. Mr. Brian always takes good care of us over there. His name's Brian too. Huh? A lot of Brians in freaking Megatruck world. But anyways, what we're going for here, I took this little nipple and I had screwed it into the pump as tight as it would go. And basically, once it's into the pump, I need this 90 to basically be at this orientation. That's why I marked it with the pen. I need it to be directly off of that little corner. So it's gonna be kind of hard for me to hold the camera and show you. But basically, we're kind of going for something like that. But this is gonna be threaded. Oh God! But this is gonna be threaded down into here, so it should be at about that level. See, sorry, it's pretty difficult to show you. But then I'll have a 90 right there, so I'll easily be able to put a line on here. So we're gonna go ahead and thin wheel this off, and then this actually bores out a decent amount, but then it necks down a lot. So it should work perfectly with this 90 that we've got here. So once this is thin wheeled off, we're gonna go ahead and put some taps into this so that this will actually screw into it. And then we're gonna get our good buddy, Mr. Steve, to go ahead and TIG weld around it so it doesn't leak. And phase one is complete. Get the nipple off. Now we just gotta thread that to where that piece will go in there. Bam!
Safety fingers.
Now back when we actually did this, I forgot to show y'all what the finished product looked like, but there she is. Freaking works like a freaking snug as a bug in a rug. Just barely misses the exhaust manifold. Makes it where I can hook that line right on up to the pump, ready to rock and roll. All right, y'all, so we're back at the Mad Scientist home lab of freaking Tory, and let's give you a little rundown on where we're at. I hope this thing is worth it. I really hope it's worth it. Spoiler alert, it's worth it. It's very, very worth it, Zacho. Oh yeah. But we've got the new, I think I already did that in the time lapse earlier, but new hydro boosters right sitting back yonder. Started hooking up some lines to it, and this is our new power steering pump. Now somewhere in this vicinity, we're gonna have the reservoir that holds extra power steering fluid. But moving on with this new super bitchin' power steering setup, all of my factory lines are no longer going to work, or all the lines that I had hooked up originally. So I've got nice super bitchin' freaking hydraulic hoses that I'm having made over there at SW Hydraulics, Southwest Hydraulics. And yeah, so what's really kind of makes this a little complex, a little bit of a pain in the butt. It's worth it once you do it right. But with these lines being as heavy duty as they are, they're all crimped like that. Well, they're crimped in that exact phasing. So like if you're twisted a little bit on the line, zoom out. If you got that fitting twisted a little bit on the line, you might not meet up with the points. It's very precise on how those fittings need to be crimped on there. If it's tweaked a little bit, then the line will bind up, and these lines are so hardcore, they don't have any give to them. So it might make it to where you can't get that fitting on there, or it kind of binds the line up in order to try to get it, and it sucks. So you gotta make everything basically perfect. So that's kind of what I'm tinkering with now, is trying to get all these hydraulic lines figured out. With this new power steering pump also, I used to run all 6 AN steering lines. Well, now I've got to run 8 AN because I'm moving so much more fluid. So that means all the freaking hydraulic lines on the front of the truck are getting replaced. And yeah, that includes all of the fittings. So like all the fittings in the bottom of my orbital valve. Those are all 6AN right now. I gotta switch them up to 8, a little bit bigger, a little bit more fluid going through, so that way we can really throw this thing all over the truck tug pad. What a pain in the ball bag. All right, y'all, so the next thing that we're tackling as far as this power steering pump goes is where to mount the freaking reservoir. So again, made by PSC, it comes with that whole power steering kit, that whole pump kit that we installed a little bit earlier. And we've got to find a place to put this in this. She's a little girthy, she's a little large and in charge. So, sorry, we've got all kinds of hoses and whatnot. We've been working on multiple projects at the same time. But what we're thinking is gonna happen here. So this has got to gravity feed out of that output into the power steering pump, which is right there yonder. So, went ahead and made ourselves up a little hose, and what we're thinking we're gonna do is probably mount her right about like this, and we're gonna come off of the battery tray, which I've got removed. It's actually sitting right down there. I'm gonna go ahead and come off the battery tray with a little bracket that we just fabbed up, and it should make it sit right about here to where it'll be able to connect onto that line, going right on down to the power steering pump. So, yeah, that leads me to where we are at with this little fab process. I took a little break from recording, but you guys kind of see what I did. It's not too complicated. A little bit of help from the mad scientist, and Gaudier Fabrications, and Denny's Custom Fabrications. Ta-da! We've got ourselves a mounting bracket. It's got a little bit more work that's got to be done to it, but this is what we're working with. Now this is gonna sit, I gotta clean this out a little bit, but basically this is gonna sit right down here. Let me get it in there and I'll show you. Boom. I think she's gonna sit right about like that. We're gonna come through that plate with 2 screws that actually go into that battery tray. My beautiful GMC battery tray. So let me set that in there, just like so. Bam! And then my little reservoir right here. It's got 2 little threaded holes in the back of it. And those I think will line up pretty damn good. Like that. Bam! So that is how she's gonna mount right on up. Plenty of room to be able to close the hood, and that should connect right on up, no problem. And then we've got ourselves a power steering freaking reservoir. Oh, brother. So we got plenty of power steering fluid. We actually don't use power steering fluid in these mega trucks. Some people do. Some people use automatic transmission fluid. We actually use tractor fluid. You get over at Tractor Supply. That was a little pointer we got from Mr. Bobby Brown over at Heavy Metal Fabrication. The tractor fluid, it's like a hydraulic oil type fluid, and it doesn't foam up nearly as much, doesn't get hot as quickly. It's much more applicable for application. Yeah, so that's what we got going on. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop these couple holes in this bracket, get the battery tray mounted back in there. So once that's mounted, it'll give me an exact idea on the power steering lines that I gotta have made, or the hydraulic lines I gotta have made, coming from that power steering cooler that's back on that cooler rack in the back of the truck, going up to this reservoir. So gotta get all those mounted up so we can get some lines made, bro. And then we're that much closer to having some power steering, and that much closer to getting the Killin' mega truck ripping, you heard me? So let's get to it. And just like that, she is in-ish. Gotta finish drilling some holes and whatnot, but she's fitted in. And I was able to get the battery in, thank God. But yeah, so that is kind of what we're working with. So I still gotta go ahead and blast a hole through there. And there's one that's underneath the battery right here. Gotta put holes through there so I can bolt the battery tray down all the way and also secure my bracket all the way. But that is kind of what we're working with. She'll gravity feed right into the freaking pump. And then I've got to get a line made. That will come from, I think, here. Yeah. It actually, not from here, but it'll come from the cooler that's way in the back of the truck, way underneath, like near the fuel tank. I got to have a line coming all the way up to this reservoir. And yeah, that's what we're doing. So y'all, that's about where I stopped recording when we actually were doing all this stuff to the truck, like when we were adding this whole power steering setup. It was really a drawn out process, so you didn't really miss much as far as recording. I just was going back and forth to the hydraulics place every other day almost. I'd get a piece of line made, get one end crimped on it, then I'd have to bring it back to the truck, get it fitted up, get it ran back so I knew I had the exact length that I needed, and then I'd have to have a fitting there on hand so I could make sure I get the phasing right. So I put a little mark on the fitting, put a mark on the hose, so that way it wouldn't be tweaked one way or the other, as I was explaining earlier. But once we got the lines made up, got them all ran, and bam! Another step of the Killin' It Resurrection, tink, off the freaking books, y'all. So now that brings us, now we're back up to snuff, back up to speed. Y'all can really see this whole power steering setup. Y'all want to see it? Keep telling y'all it's bitching. Well, you want to see for yourselves. let's get on out to the truck. Let me pop the hood, and then we'll take a little gander. So this is what our power steering setup looks like now that it is all said and done. Freaking sick. So this is our reservoir, holds extra tractor fluid or power steering fluid. What I'm using is power steering fluid. I actually ended up having to come off of this bracket for this other, it's actually a coolant bypass. We'll get in that into another video. But we got the reservoir mounted, and then it gravity feeds right down through that black hose, right down yonder to the power steering pump that has been bored out. But basically it's the same concept as my original power steering setup. I just had a big cap on there originally that had a picture of a steering wheel, but that reservoir was pretty much all I had to work with originally with the factory power steering pump. Now we've got all this extra capacity for fluid. And not only do we have extra capacity for fluid there, but we've also got hoses that go all the way back to the cooling system that's in the back of the truck. I'll show you that here in a second. So we've got an abundance of more fluid. Everything is all nice and tidy right up in here. My new Hydro Booster. Got this nice, really sweet looking powder coated cover for my freaking brake fluid reservoir. Makes it look nice and shiny and pretty. Nice whirly custom fabrications, aluminum billet cap up top too. Man, thing is on mother freaking point. And now all of my hoses, except for this one is just gravity fed, so it wasn't necessary to have it be a crimped line. We just made it out of push lock connectors. But as you can see, all of my power steering lines are all hydraulic lines now. So freaking real deal. And I put that nice flame wrap over all of them, so in case we ever get a little bit too warm, hopefully our hoses will not melt. If they do, if they melt with that stuff on them, then I really done did something. But yeah, so let's hop down and we'll take a look at how that interfeeds into the cooling rack that we got going on. Cool. Oh, you don't know what cooler rack I'm talking about? Well, then you aren't watching the Killin It Resurrection videos, because that was actually the video that came out before this one, where I explained this whole cooler rack that we built. So, yes, if you didn't watch that, you're going to see it now. So let me hop down and we'll take a little look. So as I was saying earlier, all of my hydraulic lines have been upgraded to 8AN. Remember before I had little reducers that were up there? Well, now they're no longer reduced. Now it's all 8AN lines. They're running back, and check out these sick billet mounts. Compliments of the mad scientist, making everything look super pretty. A little bit dirty, but still super pretty. And we got 8AN lines, and as luck would have it, the way that the mad scientist had set up these reservoirs that he made for us, they actually didn't even need to be modified, because they've got 8AN inputs and they've got 6AN outputs. So freaking perfect. And one line going in, one 8AN line going in, two 6AN lines going out. It's perfectly freaking set up. Freaking ideal. Hell yeah. Way to go, Brian. He knew I was going to do this one day, apparently, before we even knew I was going to blow the truck up. That mad scientist guy, I freaking tell you one something. That guy is just always on the freaking point. But yeah, as far as the cooler rack goes, one of these hoses runs right on back yonder. It's actually right there. It's hanging out from when I was hosing the truck down earlier. But it goes all the way back, goes across that cross member, and back to the cooler rack. Let's go ahead and get a little closer. Get a little closer look. They go right over my cross member. We might eventually do some kind of a billet mount here, but right now these heavy duty zip ties seem to be doing the job. But you got your input back here. It goes through the cooler rack, bam, and then comes out the output. And then it runs all the way up to that reservoir. So again, we're coming off of the orbital valve up front, going all the way back here to the cooler, and then all the way back over to that reservoir to feed right into a filter input on that reservoir setup. Now, we weren't entirely sure if it was going to be necessary for me to have a power steering cooler. I don't know, it's kind of better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. But when I was developing the idea of doing that whole cooler rack, I was like, well, I've got a lot of space here. Let's throw some coolers on here and cool anything that could possibly get hot. So that's why we've got the power steering cooler back there. And the mad scientist did mention that he notices, again, he's turning a lot more RPMs than I am because he's got a gas engine compared to a diesel. But with him turning those high RPMs, he has noticed that his power steering fluid does get pretty warm from time to time. As soon as he pulls off a truck tug pad, if he was to go open up that reservoir, he can definitely tell that that fluid is cooking. So figured it's maybe not the worst idea to have a cooler set up on my truck. If I've got room for it, got room for the cooler, add a little bit more fluid, feel like it was a good move. Feels right. Feels right in here. Feels good. So, but anyways, that is our new power steering setup. So now if you all subscribe to our channel, then the next time I put up a video and we're actually putting the truck to work, next time we're at a truck tug of war or a mud bog event where they have truck tug of wars, y'all can see how much I can really get these freaking wheels a turning, because it is pretty cool. I don't have to put nearly as much effort into turning that steering wheel as I used to. Before, like I was saying, I mean, I would be yanking on that damn thing, both hands on one side trying to get that steering wheel because I'm trying to move it so fast that the fluid would just bind up. The wheels would move, but they're pushing. Now, oh no. See ya. See ya. Freaking killing it, brother. So, hope you all enjoyed the video. Hope you all learned a little something. And as always, thanks for watching, y'all. If y'all enjoyed the video and want to check out future videos, subscribe to our channel. Hit that button right there. While you're at it, hit the like button at the bottom of your screen. You can also check out our website, killin'itlifestyle.com. There you can follow the Killin It crew and order your own apparel so everyone will know you're killing it!